everybody? Welcome to the workshop. I'm Luke with Building with Kinfolk, and today I'm going to be giving you a little tip here. Now, this is not for everybody, and you may not be working with rough cut lumber. However, I do work with a lot of rough cut lumber, and in the past, in fact, all the tables and all the furniture that we built came from rough cut lumber. So we had to do a lot of work on the front of that project or those projects, you know, whether it be planing, straightening the edges, just making sure that we had a good piece of lumber to build from. So that being said, today we're going to be talking about how to straighten up a board that's a rough cut board. If you don't know, there's probably a sawmill near you or some type of lumber store where you can go and get some better wood than what you'd find at your local like Lowe's or Home Depot. And so I like to go there. My guys at Middle Tennessee Lumber are awesome. It's where I get most of my stuff from that's not like building material. And so this is a piece of hickory that I've got for a very special project that I'm extremely excited about. But I do have a rough cut. Even one side is clean cut, but it's still not exactly straight. And I need this project to be just dead on perfect for me. So how do you do that? First of all, for this project, you're going to need a table saw. So obviously, if I had a table saw, you would think I could just run this edge down it right here that is smooth. However, because it has a curve in it as well, it's going to make a curve on this side when I run it down the table saw. There's a lot of other big expensive tools out there you can get and use. There's a lot of ways you can do this with hand tools if you want to. I think this is the easiest way, especially if you do a lot of board straightening, a lot of like trying to get a clean, nice, fresh edge on a board that is straight. And that's especially important, you know, if you're doing tabletops and stuff like that. So today, I'm going to show you how to do that. There's be a couple of things you're going to need. You're going to need a couple of screws that are going to be an inch to inch and a quarter. Of course, whatever the rough cut board we're working with is. Now, one of the things is you want to make sure that you go ahead and get this smoothed down and planed down first if you need to plane it. You don't want to have a board that is cupped or any way has a deformity when you're looking at it down this edge. So I've got a perfectly straight board here, and so make sure that your board is planed ahead of time because that can mess you up a little bit. And you're going to need a piece of MDF. Now, I love MDF for a lot of different projects. In fact, I've had a lot of workbenches over the years out of MDF. I don't know what it runs for right now. I've had this board for a while, but this is my little MDF scrap. It came off of a 4x8 sheet of piece of 3/4 inch MDF. And what I love about it is it's coming out of the factory and it is going to have a straight edge every time. You're not going to find MDF that's going to have something, bowed or anything like that because it's just a bunch of sawdust glued together in a factory. So you can't really get too crazy there. So I use these. I actually have a bunch of different sizes depending on the board that I'm going to use, but this is a really simple process. Like I said, if you do a lot of work with older boards or boards that don't have a good edge on them, I'd suggest this. Everybody that I show this to, they're always like, oh my gosh, that would save me a billion years on the planer or on the joiner or using a handsaw or whatever. So let's go ahead and get to it. I'm going to go ahead and show you how this works. It's so simple. You're going to kick yourself. Now, one part of all this is what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece of hickory. We want the smooth edge. I'm going to put it on. I'm going to get rid of this side over here. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to set that on my workbench here. And I'm going to take this MDF, and I'm going to make sure I have my good side, meaning the side that came from the factory. And I'm going to put that on the opposite side of the board piece that I want to cut off for my original board. Okay? So now we've got the issue of how do you keep it here. And we've done this a lot of different ways trying to make it work, but at the end of the day, what we always do is use the bottom. Like if this is going to be for a tabletop, we're going to make sure we're using the bottom here, and we're going to put a 1 inch or 1 1/4 inch screw from the MDF and holding that to the board that's underneath it. Now, what happens if you're not doing a tabletop? Maybe this is like what I'm using is going to be a special project where I don't really want to have any extra holes in it for no reason once I pull that screw back out. Well, then just think ahead a little bit and think about how long your board cuts are going to be. Whether that means that you can only put one on each end, or I typically like to have at least 3 screws in here just to make sure nothing crazy happens. So I've got it measured out, and I know that on this one, my cuts are going to be about 13 inches. So I'm gonna do one at 16 inches and then another one 16 inches past that, or 32 inches from the edge. That way those little pieces that I screwed into are gonna get chopped off. Pretty simple solution, right? So what happens? We just throw it on here and we cut it. Maybe not, maybe so. Here's what you need to think about as well, guys. What I like to do is I like to find the same distance off of this edge for both sides. That just makes sure that I'm gonna get a nice clean cut going down. I'm not gonna cut this too angled or anything weird like that. I don't guess you have to, but I recommend it highly. So depending on how wide the board is and how wide your MDF is, this will vary a little bit. Right here, we're going to be going at about 1.5 inches on both sides. So we're going to get this lined out, get it measured out, get our screws in there, and then we're going to jump onto the table saw, and I'll show you just how easy it is to get this thing cut. And sorry if it's loud tonight, because my 2-year-old is upstairs trying to tear apart our entire house with her bare hands. Because that's what 2-year-olds do. All right, let's go ahead and get this screwed down. All right, so we got our MDF attached to our piece of hickory here. And so the next thing we need to do is get our table saw set up for this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure from the outside of our MDF, because this is the side we're gonna be putting down the side of our rail here. And we're gonna see exactly what we need to set it at. So I need to be right at 8.5 inches for me to take off just probably 3/16, 8, 3/16, something like that. Maybe not even that much. It looks like about an 1/8. So I'm gonna go 8.5 on this and get a clean edge on this side. Set up my table saw, run it through. Guys, make sure when you're doing this, if you're new to table saw world or anything, if you got a long sleeve shirt on, make sure you roll your sleeves up. Make sure they're tight. They're not gonna slip down on you. Because a lot of times if you're working around this, the last thing you wanna have happen is your sleeve slide down and get caught in that blade. That makes for a bad day for everybody. And so, make sure you get that taken care of, have your safety gear, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, guess we're gonna cut it. So let's get us a straight edge on here. All right, see how easy that was? I'm gonna unplug my saw here, pull my dust collector off so I can get around here to work. Out of the way a little bit. Now, all I've got to do is unscrew my MDF. Now, if you do this a lot, you can just leave screws in your MDF a little bit. Set that to the side. Gonna get our MDF out of here. And let's take a look at it. Oh yeah. I know you really can't see it, but that's a beautifully straight board. Straight down this edge. I've got that little curl out of it. My holes are gonna be on the marks, or in the areas where I'm gonna be cutting off, because I pre-planned how much board I was gonna need. Like I said, if you're doing a tabletop, you can just do it on the bottom. Make sure you don't put screws all the way through. That's important to know. And so if you've got a really thin piece, you want to make sure you get some smaller screws. So, may not be the answer for everybody, but in my opinion, it's a really fast and simple way to get a straight edge, especially once you get used to it. It's going to save you a lot of time in the shop. And once you have that straight edge, then you can go ahead and flip it over and run it back to your saw, get your straight edge on your other side, and you're good to go ahead and start turning this into whatever kind of beautiful piece it is that you want to build. All right, if you got any other tips, make sure you drop them in the comments below, either on the blog or the YouTube. If you haven't checked out the blog, make sure you jump down there and check it out, because we got all kinds of building projects. We got tips, tricks, all kinds of stuff. And of course, subscribe and follow on all the socials and all that crap. Y'all know, y'all hear it every time you turn on a YouTube video. I ain't got to repeat it, guys. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me and trusted me to let you, or trusted me to help teach you how to build, and some of the tips and tricks that have helped me along the years of doing this. And don't forget, I'd love to see some build photos. So if you build something from our either website or using the tips and tricks that you've learned here, make sure you tag us in it or send us a message or something like that, because that's the kind of stuff that makes it worthwhile for being here. Guys, I can't wait to hang out with you next time in the workshop. Love y'all. Be good. See ya.